Hi, so my name is Tim,
I'm Temian.
and this is another video about the right mindset, how to get the right mindset for trading. So what is very important is to know what is going on in your mind. You know, I've said in another video, but say it again. You know, when a guy talks to a beautiful girl, his IQ drops by 30 points. The same is true when you're trading in the market. You know, like everything you made up might not happen because you're just, you know, like you don't know anymore what's happening. So it starts with being aware what is happening in your mind, right?
Like everything in life.
Yeah, like everything in life. So the cool thing is that there is like an economic theory about the emotions of people, and it's like modeled also. And this is called behavioral finance. Now, within behavioral finance are like the eight most important, or the eight I know of, the eight most important fallacies of a trader or pitfalls of a trader. And this video is about those 8 pitfalls, and we just go over it shortly, and well, we see what happens. Okay? You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first is called prospect theory. And prospect theory is basically that you, and probably, you know, like everybody who has, you know, traded even one day knows this. A loss and a profit feels completely different, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you're making money, it's like happy hormones are rushing through your body, and you know, like everything is good and okay and whatever. And if you lose money, you're basically going like, oh, I should have done that, and maybe even, you know, like I'm not good enough. You're gonna doubt like every part of your being at a certain moment if you're like really going down.
So is the goal to somehow, I mean, you're never going to feel them the same. They just aren't.
No, there.
You know?
No.
The goal is probably to get better at recognizing them and processing them quickly.
Yeah.
Right? And knowing how they affect you specifically. And, you know, it's just natural. You know, if you're going to, when you make money, you're going to get exuberant and happy. And for different people are going to lose different types of focus. And the same when you're losing money, and you just have to know that within yourself and just measure it slowly, you know. Is there specific techniques, and then when you first started, that people recommended to you?
Well, you know, like my first lesson as a trader, it was like a good trader doesn't have too much of an ego. Overconfidence is an ego thingy, but so is fear. And you know, like, it's exactly as you say, you know, like they're never gonna feel the same. You know, just making money, earning money, winning is just feels so much better than losing. But you can, you know, like already see the risk of, if you're too overconfident, what will happen?
Is that you lose perspective of what you're really doing, and what you're really doing is just playing probabilities. You never know specifically what it's going to happen, and if you get over emotional in one direction or the other, you start to get outside of your strategy and believe you are predicting more than you actually have the ability, because we're not predicting.
Exactly.
We are just minimizing probabilities and trying to make safe ways for both. That's all you can ever do, right? And the problem is your natural emotional states tell you that you know more than you do, or you think you know more than you do, instead of actually getting back to the reality of where you are. But emotions, they have a big purpose in this.
Yeah.
They keep you in check, and it's also part of why you do it. You know, it's exciting, and it's also you know, an exercise in learning how to focus and learn about yourself. And so there's no way you're not going to feel exuberant or frightened or anything. You just have to realize that the thoughts that are coming after that, you don't act on them, because it doesn't, just because you're excited about something and you're right once in the moment doesn't mean you have suddenly more predictable skills than you've researched from the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think in, like thinking in probabilities is like there's only gray area. There's no black or white. There's no 0 and 1. Somebody who will say like absolute guarantee that the Bitcoin will go down is full of shit. And that's just the way it is. Because if you are aware that you don't know so much or you don't know anything for sure, that is thinking in probabilities. So. If you're overconfident, the risk is to go all in. So that might be a reality check, like I'm so sure of myself, I just want to go all in. If that is happening, you should be like, whoa, wait, overconfidence alarm, do nothing, sleep, try to sleep, probably not possible. So the other way around, if you're too fearful, you don't dare doing any trade anymore. So if you're like only, your hands are shaking and you cannot do a trade because you're too afraid, that's like another ego or alarm that you are too afraid. So that's also not like true rational thinking. Then there's one more thing, so there's winning and losing, but there's like two other things. That is like you get even more euphoric if you are in a loss and you get out in a profit. And the other way around, you get even more depressed if you're first in a profit and then in a loss. If you just do a bad trade and you sell something, goes up, your minus whatever, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, doesn't matter. And you have been losing only. That is not as bad as that you have been plus 1,000 and then go to minus 1,000, right?
Yeah,
have
exactly.
You been there?
Yeah, of course. Because it's nuance. It's like doing a fluke or some sort of like hot dog move in a sport. You feel like that you have some sort of balance on the inertia, and there's a big part of that in this. But at the same time, you've got to always remember that no matter what strategy it is, it's never been back tested to go all in or to be perfect or to trust it more than it's been researched. No matter what kind of luck you've had at the moment or what kind of emotion you processed in a really cool way, you've got to always just go back to where you were, to what you've actually proven and researched and what you have a reason to believe in.
Yeah, and then adding to that, no back test is perfect. You cannot perfectly predict the future with the past, or maybe you can, but I didn't find it yet. Okay, let's go. So this video is about the 8 fallacies, the 8 biases of a human when it comes to trading. So we had prospect theory. We look at profit and losses differently. The next one, number 2, is herding behavior. That doesn't need a lot of explaining, does it?
Yeah, there's a lot of traders that go the opposite. They'll say that they'll watch MSNBC and trade the opposite, or they just take a contrarian point of view. And there is a lot of truth to that, even if you see that the markets are designed to take money from the impatient or the untalented traders from the ones that are more patient. And I don't think you need to actually always just say I'm against the herd. You can just a robust strategy will naturally be picking that up anyway.
I think so too.
Than just being plain contrarian.
But it is, as a professional, and this is absolutely, if the great public, the average, whatever you call this in English, like everybody wants to go in somewhere. For me, it's time to get out. I definitely trade contrarian. Okay, so that's herding behavior. So every bias, every fallacy, every pitfall gets a separate video. Yeah. So if you think this is interesting, you want to know more, you can leave a comment. And we will do more videos about this. Number 3 is the overreaction bias, which is that often the newest information gets a too big of a weight. You understand?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of the times you're been studying something, you're ready to do a trade, and then you hear something, and suddenly that's the last bit of information, and instead of putting it where it belongs in context to the amount of validity it has, because it's the last thing you hear, it's what you go off of.
Yeah.
And it's also a natural human reaction. You got to be ready if you're doing that. So.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got something in your mind that's saying, ah, ha, ha, you know, a lot of people, I mean, that's why, I mean, that's kind of the basis of trading the news in some ways. But it's you know, it's a very difficult thing to map. You know?
That's why. And I actually have a good example of that. It's wind trading. You know, it's the stock code on the Nasdaq is WYNN, wind trading from wind resorts. I mean wind resorts, not wind trading, wind resorts. So they had like really good quarter results and the stock went up, and then a few days later there was this news about Mr. Win, you know, like a 70-year-old guy, the CEO, has the last name Win and is one of the founders, or his father founded. I don't even know the details because I don't really do this, and I don't watch the news and stuff like that. But he was like, I don't know, how do you say that, loose hands, or you know,
he got caught up in the Me Too movement.
Yeah, exactly. He got caught up in the hashtag #MeToo moment. So that news was like the stock price went 10-15% down because of that, and that is really an example for overreaction bias, because even though the guy could be like a dirty old man, it doesn't say anything about the profits of the company, right? So that is the latest example that I have,
and that's a double-edged sword as a sample, because if you were really in tune and you shorted it at the right moment, it would have worked.
Yeah, and you just have to long it at the right moment again.
Yeah, but if you are going to be, you know, trading off overreactions, you have to set the tightest stop limits, you know, and you have to really calculate that is the most unpredictable, volatile way to trade in a lot of ways, but it's possible.
Well, I'm in general, you know, well, you know, you can call me a pro. I actually don't read the news. I don't watch CNBC. I think it's a waste of time. I rather do my analysis and leave it to the algorithm, and have free time to sports, to drink coffee, to meditate, you know, to whatever. So I don't watch the news, so you know, I don't suffer from that overreaction bias at this moment.
It's funny, technical analysis somehow seems to move with the news as well, because a lot of the news isn't spontaneous. It's made by the market makers as well, and they coincide it with the market analysis sometimes, or sometimes it's intertwined, which is strange.
Wow.
But I trade in Bitcoin, which is such a, you know, small market cap, so volatile, and it can be moved dramatically by news. And there are certain times where, you know, you have to be aware of the news, and generally it coincides with the technical analysis, but not always.
Yeah, and I feel that, you know, like that's, you know, like I'm the old-fashioned guy. I think in terms of Nasdaq and Dow Jones and S&P 500, and not necessarily in a cryptocurrency market. So when it comes to stock and option and future trading, first you have a reaction in the stock or in the quote, you know, and then comes the news. But in the crypto market, it's like a less of an adult market, you know. So maybe that goes the other way around. And this is the thing that I'm learning from Damien here, you know, about, because I don't believe in reading the news, but when it comes to crypto market, you know, if you know something, it's like 12 o'clock at night and something in China is news, and you know that everybody's asleep, and at 6 a.m. in the United States you will get a reaction. You might actually profit from that. Yeah. But that is not for, you know, the market where I'm trading in normally.
Yeah, it's very smart to always follow the trend with the news as well. You know, if you're in a bear market, bear news will have a much bigger effect. If you're in a bull market, bull news has a much bigger effect. It's always something to keep in the back of your mind if you're doing something super volatile with small assets, and there's something that everyone is talking about. But I don't try to put it into any sort of, I have an algorithm. I'm trying to be as robust and simple as possible, and just base off the emotions. Yeah. And not to be said, if something massive happens, that it isn't going to affect it, because there's always room for nuance in anything.
Yeah, but then you know, like, what is first, the reaction in the market or the news outcome? It's always, you know, people always know earlier than you do. So I know many professional traders. I'm very, I'm very single-minded anyway, but I basically say I don't read the newspapers, I don't watch the news because you're never in time, you're always too late. And there's so many also like really so-called professional traders. They're like, but you have to read the newspaper to stay on top of what's happening. No, I don't actually. I rather put that time in my personal development and having like a healthy body and having a clear mind instead of forming just another opinion that is not right. But, if you don't agree with that, you're not the only one.
It's like everything it's a dangerous scrape. It's a balance. You've got to look into yourself and see what works and what doesn't, and just be fluid and be ready to change the way you think and the way you trade and the way you strategize, especially in this market, because it's new, it's immature, what I've learned, I think that all those lessons, though they're kind of like a speeded up microcosm, they still apply to every other market in the world, because charts are charts, human emotions are human emotions. There's obviously different fundamentals and different abilities to move things, but in the same, and then it applies to everything, the macro market of human history and within yourself.
That's what I wanted to add. It applies to our lives too.
Yeah.
The stock market or the crypto market or what trading market is just a metaphor for life, and it's very nice that in the end of the day, if you scored a plus, whatever you did that day worked, and if you score a minus, it didn't. So you get like immediate result of your actions, and that makes it really nice. But the lessons that I've learned from being a trader, I apply to my life too, and that actually works, for me.
Exactly like what we were talking about, probability. It's like when something's really hard in life or something's really difficult, you got to always remember that there's only a probability that you truly understand it. Of course, you got to feel it and process it and do it, but you have to be able to find a center and not take things for the way you immediately feel. Because in the end, if you really ask yourself if something was negative or positive, it's not always black and white. And it's the same thing in trading. And trading, has to be quantified instantly. Like you have to trade and you have to do it. So I mean, I think it's totally a life lesson that I'm learning it anyway.
Well, I think this is in between the lines always. Okay, number 4, anger and bias. So basically, if you look, if you form your algorithm on the last 3 months, and that's where you look at, and then if you would look let me say it like that, like this, a professional trader is looking for where he's wrong, where he or she is wrong. If you look at 3 months, you make like this huge profit, but you refuse to look at the whole year and see, or the 9 months before your 3 months, for example, then you would suffer from anchoring bias, and you don't want that, So basically, the difference between an amateur and a professional trader is looking for where he or she is wrong.
Yeah. Especially for me, because I don't have the resources to hire a lot of coders and to backtest things, and because a lot of the crypto exchanges, the APIs are, can't be updated with every kind of indicator I use. I have to backtest myself, and the only way to do that is look for it where it doesn't work, to find the weaknesses, to look for the places where it shouldn't be, and anywhere it did work, always remember that you have that. You're just anchored to that one moment in time, even if it's spanned over whatever, because that's where the market was. So it's in the end, it's also about understanding, always being aware of the trend, because what's working in that, it was working in that specific trend with that specific amount of volume. So is there another side to that, whereas it's okay to be very specific and then know that you're only trading in that?
What do you mean? I don't really understand the question.
Oh, like when you're back testing something, and if you're spanning too much time, but yet the time that's coming up should be only tested to a certain other anchor period.
No, but this is the, you could call it like the quantitative disease, to be lost in this very specific thing. So you want to zoom out. So this is why I think that you want to use your intuition, let's have another word for that, your gut feeling, to create your strategy. From that gut feeling, you create certain rules, and then in the heat of the moment, you stick to those rules. Because you need your gut feeling to design, like, I'm just gonna look in this space. And I mean, you can always be wrong or right, but what I see with like the average quantitative guy is they keep on looking in this very specific, and then they find this model that is like never losing money ever, but it's like as unstable as a whatever, like as something that is very unstable. So yeah, gut feeling.
Yeah, it's hard to recreate any exact moment in time. So you got to try to have something that works over a span, I guess.
No, you just want to look outside of whatever you believe is true after you've found an algorithm. Okay, let's go on, because otherwise we're already on 20 minutes and we had like 4 out of 8 biases. So the next one, number 5, is mental accounting. And mental accounting is basically that you have like different accounts with money, like the money for your kids to go studying, you want to be like super low risky and stuff like that. And the money you made on buying the Bitcoin 5 years ago, which is maybe twice as much as that money, you take like huge risks. It's very human, but it's not very rational, so I'm not saying, this is actually, I think this is, as long as that low risk is, you want to keep it safe, and then if you have more money left, it is normal to take higher risk, but you want to be aware of it because it's not necessarily rational. Okay, number 6, yeah?
Yeah, well, I just want to add that for me, I think that it's a very interpersonal thing. Everyone has to kind of look within themselves and be weary of other people who tell you to give you what risk analysis really is in every portfolio, because it's hard to equate, and it's something very individual, and you should always be prepared, for the worst, but hope for the best, and be prepared to live under both circumstances, and not pretend that other people's risk analysis is truly true
or applicable for you.
Yeah,
right?
Applicable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 6, confirmation bias. Okay, this is something most traders, and be honest to yourself if you suffer from this. If you have an algorithm or some truth or something you found, are you looking for confirmation to information that is confirming what you think, what your algorithm believes, whatever your truth is? Or are you willing to look outside? If you're looking for confirmation, you suffer from confirmation bias. If you're looking for information that doesn't confirm your strategy, and you analyze that and your strategy still holds, you have a strategy.
Yeah. I mean, that it sounds really obvious, but it's actually probably the greatest tool you have is to fail forward and to write down your mistakes and study them. Everything that doesn't work is your Bible. That's where you're going to learn the most. That's where you're going to find the way to make whatever you think works, whether you really know it or true. You should never be looking for confirmation. It's the opposite.
Agree. Okay, number 7, the gambler's fallacy. Okay, roulette table, casino. It has been 10 times red. What do you believe? What is the chance that it will be black, the toss afterwards? Like sometimes my English is really bad, sorry. Is that more than 50% or just 50%? I know, if I ask it like this, you have to be really, really, you're not extremely clever if you answer that it's more than 50%, because at any certain moment in time well, at casino it's actually less than 50% for both red and black, because you have like green, the 0, but say it's 50%, and also after 10 times red. So if the market is going up, and every time you are short, and every time it goes up, you're like, oh, and now it must come down, and I double or nothing. You double your like it goes okay a lot of times, but if you fail, you lose everything, and not clever. So gambler's fallacy.
Gambler's fallacy, and a lot of strategies are designed to help you get lost in this by layering, because it's okay to layer your exits and your entrances, but you have to keep track of the probabilities that you're doing them. You know, it's because you're going in with a smaller percent. It's not because it's a greater chance. Or if it is, you've got to make sure that you're very exact with what you're doing from your original strategy. And stick to don't relayer things based on the fact that they didn't work. Specifically, unless you've already calculated for that wiggle room for it not to work. I try to stay away from layering just because it gets more and more complicated.
And this is you know, like, of course, Deming is a friend, but he's also, he says he's not experienced, but he says some things that I have like really solid evidence of, that I'm like, ah, yes, man, because this, when I was working for this Swiss algorithm trading company, we did a research about should you layer or not. And basically, if you have a model that makes money and the model says go long, why would you wait? Why would you put in half of your money or start layering? So that research clearly showed that if your model says go long, you just buy and you stay long until the model says that you have to go short. So we're like completely on the same page here, and I've had, you know, like, it is research of a few years ago, but it's like, if you know, like, if your model says go long and you don't go long, like, why would you trade the model anyway if you don't trust it, you know? And then you know, to be again, just take a little bit step back, because I know I have a strong opinion. If you are not sure yet of your model, it's okay to layer, but just be aware about the fact that you don't trust your model yet.
Yeah.
So you want to work
trust your
model.
layering? So you have to keep totally calculate for that as well.
And then number 8, last but not least, the overconfidence bias. Overconfidence bias. This is like very, very human, and it's like a surviving mechanism that we forget our losses and we remember our profits. You know, and this is also something that how do you recognize a successful trader? You know, like, if you go into the bar with all the traders, you know, like the most successful and the least successful are together. The guys who are screaming the most are not the most successful traders. They are the wannabes, you know. The most successful traders are probably somewhere in the back with a few people that are like nodding to them, and they're maybe even a bit shy, you know. And you will notice that if somebody's talking about their losses, that is a sign of a successful trader, because if somebody is talking about their profits all the time, he or she may suffer from the overconfidence bias. It's that you forget your losses and you remember your profits. Well, a professional successful trader is actually focusing, or not, at least sharing his losses, you know, like that time 3 years ago I screwed up because I thought this and this, and you know, like, I lost like the money that I made in a whole year because I was so stupid, and blah blah blah. You know, so that's something to watch for. That if you want to learn from other people, don't listen to those people who tell their success stories, but listen to those people who tell their failures. And this is what you said also, you know, like fail fast forward, fail forward,
fail forward,
fail fast and furious.
Yeah, even you should also always try to calculate the reason that you're overconfident as well. If things are going really well and they're going better than you could have calculated before, just keep that in mind. You know, remember that it's just that you never know what the price is going to do. All you can do is create the probabilities, but there's always outside variables, an influx of volume in one direction or the other that you can't calculate. And sometimes it's going to calculate in the right direction for you over and over again. That doesn't mean you just know that you've been able to predict the future suddenly. You've just had it go your way. Just always remember that. This is one thing that's black and white in trading, but not so black and white in life for me. Because you know, you should be honest with how you're making money or how you're losing money. But in life, sometimes it's good to just, you know, polish things, you know.
Forget about, you know, like, you know, that moment that I walked up to that girl and she just laughed at me and turned around and walked away. No, I don't remember, do you?
Yeah.
No, don't. No, let's keep it like that.
I can't get lost in those nuances, you know.
No, but it is really like a surviving mechanism for people, because You know, it's that
Yeah,
it
it's,
makes life better if you
Yeah.
forget your big screw ups and you remember where you were right.
well,
But then
it's super primal. Back in
it's
the
very
day when
primal,
we were in
yeah.
the cave and we got attacked by the tiger, well, we still had to go out and make food for our family, so we had to forget about the tiger and go and do it again, right?
Yeah.
So it's naturally, but you just in trading, just be aware that there are variables that are going to work in your favor or against your favor that you can never calculate, and just don't start pretending that you're calculating them.
Yeah, and you know, from my experience, because you know, like of course I've been a professional trader, but I've been screwing up, you know, like at least half of the time, maybe more. The moments where I was like so confident, my option position, you know, gamma long, theta long, you know, like this cannot go wrong. This was just before I lost a shitload of money. Like, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So I'm not overconfident. I'm not depressed either. So okay, so it's a bit of a longer video, but so we're gonna make from every bias, we're gonna make like a separate video, and we're gonna also show you know like so what is the big risk of this? You know, we have been talking about it. You know, like overconfidence bias. Big risk is, for example, to go all in. You know, and to not see your risk anymore. So we're gonna talk a bit, have an example, and what is the risk, and how can you recognize that you're suffering from a bias? You know, because it starts with the awareness. You want to change your mind and have that peace of mind, calm, almost Zen monic trading mindset. You know, it starts with understanding what's happening and having those alarm moments like, oh wait, you know, like this is a alarm moment. Take a step back and don't lose all your money in one day.
We look forward to your comments and stories and questions, because that's how we're here to learn, or I know I am, and that's basically the best way I've always found is to listen.
Yeah.
So please tell us what you want to know and what you think.
That goes for me too. I love to know more of your stories so we can learn. I can learn more. Okay. See you next time.
Doei.
Doei.